John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan just spoke to the media and gave out a bunch of updates regarding Jawan Jennings, the 53-man roster, practice squad, all of that stuff. We're going to rewatch it here and go step by step with what they said and do all that. So before we do that, anybody that's here, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. We're going to add this on so we can take a look at this. And I'm just going to go through it from the beginning all the way to the end. A lot of stuff was said. That's one thing that I'll definitely say about this. A lot of stuff was said, but how much of it, matters, what's important is something that, you should really, be focused in on. But let's see. Let's make sure that we got this and we make sure the audio is good. Shout out to everybody joining and everything as well, too. Here we go.
We get chairs when I'm in here.
Okay.
He never gets a chair. Go ahead.
Bring us up to date on Jawan Jennings and just how that fits into the overall picture of the 53.
Yeah, so Jawan's still working through his calf issue, making progress. We're kind of like everyone else, hopeful but not sure, on week one, and we'll proceed as such.
So first off, John Lynch doesn't want to answer any of these questions about Jawan Jennings. And usually it's Kyle that's a little bit more aggressive, upset. But as this goes on, and if you didn't watch it, as this goes on, John Lynch is more and more upset about answering these questions. You can tell he's very frustrated, but let's keep going.
And so we're working to get the best mix out there. We added a piece today, and in MVS, Marquez Valdez Scantling, and thrilled to have him part of it. And we move forward.
Are you involved in any other wide receivers?
We're always trying to improve our roster.
You guys have mentioned his MRI in the past. Do you guys see progress with that, with the imaging that's been taken on the calf?
Yeah, you don't image a guy like daily, so that's something that happened a little bit ago, and if it doesn't get better soon, I'm sure we'll be doing more of that.
Is it worse than you originally had thought it was going to be?
Yeah, but I also, calves can take a long time. That's one thing with that injury. Played with guys who they can take a while. So.
John, I'm sure you may be aware that there's been some conjecture that there's more than just a calf going on, given his desire for your contract and everything. Are you convinced when he is healthy that he'll be ready to play?
Well, there's a lot that goes into that, Eric. Ideally, everybody has a training camp. Everyone's out there. That's a perfect world. But, he's been putting in work to the side, and we'll have to make that judgment when the time comes. The other thing is both things can be true. He wants a new contract and he's got a hurt calf. So I think people want to assume one or the other. Both things can be true.
See, right here is when John is going to start to get upset because the first few questions are about Jawan Jennings. And rightfully so. I mean, at this point, when you're looking at how this roster is being built, so much of it hinges on what the status of Jawan Jennings is. So I don't know if he didn't expect it or if he just was in a bad mood, but you're going to see right now when the mood switches.
You make your decisions on the wide receiver position specifically. Do you have to do it assuming you might not have Jawan for the first few weeks?
I think we make every decision on this roster with so many things in consideration. So yes, of course.
Has he asked to be traded?
A while ago he did, but that was a long time ago, and we've moved on from that.
During camp, or was it before?
I'm not getting into when it was, but it was a while ago.
I'm not getting into when it was. Oh, baby. John Lynch has had enough, man. He seems upset with the entire situation because as the questions persist, his mood changes a little bit. So I thought that was really interesting. It does seem that there's a little bit more of contention than we thought. This isn't just like, oh, it's business here. Like, they're not happy. He's not happy right now. So, I just think that's interesting. But let's keep listening.
Go.
What about Russell Gage? Is he any plans to bring him back?
Yeah. Gage will be out there today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's on the practice squad?
No, he'll be on the 53.
That's interesting. Russell Gage is back, not on the practice squad. He's going to be on the 53. basically ensuring the fact that he's going to be up on game day in week 1. There was so much discussion about who the 49ers could have brought in a wide receiver, what they were going to do. It always felt like they were going to go after, who was available, which is Marquez Valdez-Scantling, receivers of that ilk. And you would have thought that Robbie Chosen and Russell Gage would have been there for the practice squad, but Russell Gage has actually gotten a 53-man roster spot. Robbie Chosen is the one on the practice squad, and there's still 4 more spots left to go. And they did reveal some of that on here as well.
You mentioned a couple weeks ago that there would be definitely movement. It's fluid, given the number of injuries and positions. How hard is it to start looking at week 1, knowing that there's still moves to be made, there's some positions that look pretty short right now. As the coach plotting for that, how difficult has that been?
It's always difficult. It's difficult in week 8 when you have a bunch of guys go down the week before too, and you're sitting there and you don't have those guys on practice squad and you're not sure how you're going to put it together, but you find a way to figure it out and you show up the next Sunday. At week 1, it can be a little bit different, but these are times that you go through always as a coach at some time in the year. I'm glad that we have gotten a lot of our injured guys back. Some joining in on practice on Monday. We'll have more out there today. So hopefully we'll keep having better luck with that.
And this is a team that's had great chemistry, obviously.
Sorry for the video quality. This is obviously not me, but as long as you can hear what's being said is what's more important. So,
But it's also had some contractual issues in the past. What does it tell you that Juwan did ask to be traded, and how does that change the way you think about him or way he exists on this organization?
No, that doesn't faze me at all. I don't think it has anything to do with team chemistry. I don't think it has anything to do with how we approach each other, how we spend our time with each other. That has to do with business decisions, and those are the business decisions people make. But I don't look at any of that stuff. You get a tweet of that while you're on a vacation, and I don't get the tweets, but when people copy a tweet and send it to me, that's about all I get, and I usually move on with my life.
So Kyle seems a lot more laid back about the situation than John does. John's the one who's actually negotiating and going through this stuff with the agent. So I'm sure he has a different feeling than Kyle does because they're not in the room together. Like, Kyle is more of like, it sounds like from this, more of an it is what it is type thing. That's business. And John just seems a little bit more frustrated. The only reason I'm pointing out that Lynch is acting this way in this press conference is because he's very level-headed. He's very media trained, and he very rarely lets anybody see him sweat. And it just seemed like those questions were just pushing him a little bit further and further. Like for him to say, "I'm not getting into all that." Like John's not normally like that. Kyle is the one that's taking a little bit more of like, this is just business, and he's not taking it personal. John Lynch is the one that's actually doing the discussions and doing the negotiations. So you can imagine that this is wearing on him a little bit more as we get closer to the season.
John, when you said he did ask for a trade a while back, has that trade request been rescinded?
No, he asked for it, and we've moved on. And we're not doing that, so we're moving forward.
Repeating himself. We've moved on. We're not doing that. So, I guess what you want to take away from that is that Juwan Jennings is not going to be traded, and this is going to be a who blinks first situation. But John was very upfront with saying that his calf is hurt and he wants a new contract. Both things can be true is what he said. So I don't know if I subscribe to the idea that as soon as he signs his contract, his calf is going to be magically healed. So I think that's something that we can kind of throw out there. But again, him repeating himself, we're not doing that. We've moved on. So they're not going to trade Juwan Jennings, but they also don't want to extend him further than this season. So whatever deal that they, eventually come to is going to have to just be a reworking of his contract this year. And I thought it was interesting because I think this is the question where they ask about his incentives. And he says that whatever information is out there is inaccurate. I think this is it.
One of the contract sites says that he has incentives baked into that contract that he signed. Does he have performance-based incentives?
I think that report, somebody put that in front, that was from last year. So those are things that he's already earned from last year. Yeah.
So remember, the idea was, he can't sit out because of these incentives. He can't sit out because that's not on the table right now. So whatever leverage that was of like making him blink to get on the field, that's wrong. That's what John Lynch just said. Don't believe me, believe Lynch. So the idea of 50% snap share, all that stuff. Oh, he's costing himself money if he goes out there. I don't know if he is now. We're gonna have to, dig into this a little bit more and find out a little bit more. But I thought that was very interesting. That was something that while everybody's like honed in on, are you gonna trade him, all of that. That one, that's a big piece of information because I feel like that's being used against Juwan Jennings to say, listen, you better get out there or you're gonna cost yourself money. John Lynch said, no, that's already been earned. So is he going to cost himself money?
Offense has pretty consistently over the years ranked toward the top of the league in yards after the catch. From your view, to what extent is that a credit to the scheme versus the individual ability of any one receiver and player?
I think it always goes to players. You can always get more yards after the catch if you're really open. You need good players to get really open. And sometimes you're not really open and you have the right player who's only a normal guy would get 2 yards after the catch, but we got a different guy who gets 4 yards after the catch, so that stuff adds up. So I always give that credit to the players.
There's a nickname for Debo, Ayuk and Kittle, the Yak Bros. Debo's not here anymore, and I won't be ready to go for the early part of the season. How would you assess Ricky Pearsall's chances of maybe being accepted as a new member?
I'm struggling to hear it, but you're saying that.
Horrific question. Whoever that was. My goodness. You're missing a yak, bro. Do you think that Ricky Pearsall is going to be activated accepted into the yak, bro? Like, when are we going to ask football questions? When are we going to ask things that actually matter? You wasted a whole question on this, but let's listen to what Kyle has to say.
Him getting
Being
yards
a
after the
yak bro.
catch?
Yeah.
Oh, a
Yeah.
yak bro?
How would you assess his chances of maybe being a new member?
I think anytime you have really good hands, that's where it starts with having yards after the catch. How quickly you can stop the spin of a ball and tuck it away and get immediately vertical usually has to do with how good your hands are. And Ricky is very good at that. Then other stuff goes into breaking tackles and stuff. Debo was elite at that because how big he was and how powerful he was. And then some guys get yards after the catch because they can run away from everybody. But usually the guys who are yards after the catch are guys who don't mess around, catch it clean, get right up the field. And that to me always starts with your hands and leads to the mindset of how you play football.
Are things trending so that you think you'll have Pooney and Arch week 1?
We're optimistic about it. We're hoping so. I guess I'd say that'd be trending in the right direction, but we won't know that till next week. And I'm hoping and we got Barch back out on Monday's practice, so we're on course for that and hoping to get Pooney out sometime next week, if not Monday, hopefully Wednesday.
That's important. The idea of Pooney and Barch being ready for week 1 or trending in the right direction at least. Again, today's Wednesday. The game plan install doesn't start until Monday. So, again, they have these light practices and these, it'll be essentially walkthroughs and things like that, or just trying to get people back in working out. But, having Barch and Pooney, having the entire starting offensive line healthy is great. So that's something that's very good news to hear right here from Kyle Shanahan, who, kind of is tepid with being optimistic almost about anything at this point, right?
He's doing good in his rehab, and it's looking positive so far.
You guys activated Yeater yesterday from where is he? Is he possible for week 1, or is that going to be?
Yeah, he's possible for week 1. We expect him to get out and start practicing here next week. But we've been working him out like he's going to play week 1. He's been handling that well, and hopefully that'll continue, and he'll be out there on Sunday.
Yetur Gross-Matos, somebody else that's going to be out there, another rotational defensive lineman. Suddenly, everything is kind of rounding into shape for the 49ers, eventually, right? And this is happening right before this week off, before the 49ers actually have to start putting in their game plan against Seattle. So more good news. And there's more good news to come, from the rest of this press conference as well. Let's listen on.
That overhaul of that defensive front was a big emphasis all off season. So now that you're about on the cusp of the season, how does that unit look? You guys stocked up on them at the 53-man roster. I'm sure there's changes now too, but how does it come along?
There's a lot of change to it, but we like the group, and I think they've all gotten better throughout camp. Bosa's Bosa. He's going to be Bosa. Michael started off really good, had a great offseason, then got nicked in training camps, as did C.J. West. But they've both done a nice job. Alfred Collins, we're really happy and proud of the efforts he's put forth, and I think he's improving as he's getting his legs underneath him. Sam O making great contributions. Kyle just talked about Yetur. Bryce Huff really has shown his value to us. So I think when you throw it all together, Beal in that group as well. So as you throw that whole group together, there's a lot to like. We did claim a guy from Jacksonville, Jordan Jefferson, today, and felt like an opportunity to upgrade our group, a guy we've liked way back to his college days in LSU, and add something to our group, and we wanted to take a look at that. So, you know, when you put the whole group together, I think we like it, and there's versatility, guys who can move inside, rush inside, and be a fun group to work with.
And I wanted to clarify something because I think a lot of people don't understand the waiver claim process. When you put a claim in for a player on waivers and you get him, you cannot put him on the practice squad. You have to move him to your 53. Now, when you do that, you need a corresponding move, which is why you see Jefferson being claimed by the Jaguars and then Evan Anderson leaving. That's why when you're wondering why, you know, like I saw a tweet, I forget who it was, like, claim all of these players. Yeah, well, you have to have a corresponding move for the 53. Like, that's just not how it works, right? Like, you just can't just be claiming people willy-nilly. You have to get rid of somebody to put them on the 53, which is why if somebody's not being claimed, it doesn't necessarily mean that nobody wants them. They can't see themselves clear of just putting in a waiver claim and cutting somebody else off the roster that they think is valuable. Evan Anderson is probably somebody that's going to end up being back on the practice squad, but if you really, really need that type of player, then, you know, obviously you put the claim in, but you have to cut somebody and put them on the 53. So if you see somebody not get claimed, you can sign them to the practice squad. And I think that's the process that people are missing. It's like, well, why aren't they claiming this player? Why aren't they claiming that player? Yeah, who do you want to cut off this roster? You know, they have to make certain moves at the right times.
A few ex-Jacksonville guys. Is the Ethan Walk connection helpful there, or is that just random?
Well, it's certainly nice to, you know, when you can see the film, we can all see the film. You go back to draft process, but how's he been since he's been a pro? And it's nice to have Ethan's, you know, we respect Ethan's opinion. He's earned that around here. And so it is nice to have that resource.
You mentioned you're not going to trade Juwan Jennings.
Hard was the decision on Sebastian Valdez.
It was pretty funny that Grant was trying to ask a question there and he got cut off.
And kind of what went into that decision to kind of go forward the way you did.
Just, you mean him not making the 53? Just numbers. I mean, we had, sometimes we go with 4 guys inside, sometimes we go with 5. We usually go 9 as a group. We went 10. We ended up finding I think we went 11 actually. 11. Finding out we could get one from another roster, and we're glad that he's still here on our practice squad. So you always take a risk of losing those guys, but there's no difference to me between our 53 and the 16 guys on practice squad. I know for those guys there's a difference because it's a different paycheck, which I fully understand. But Sebastian's part of our team, and I'm glad that we don't lose him, and I plan on him continuing throughout the year, and there's probably going to come a time in this year where we need him.
That's really cool that Sebastian Valdez was able to find his way back onto the practice squad. You know, again, I just thought that he did a lot during the preseason to make the case. But again, when you're looking at the roster politics and how these things are coming together in the construction, it makes sense for them to try and sneak him by, and they did. You know, and again, when he's out there to be claimed, I don't think people are going to be running out there to put a waiver claim in for Sebastian Valdez, right? Like, so I think this was a strategic move. It was the right move, and they ended up getting him back. Now, he can be poached from the practice squad. That's something that we need to keep in mind. But this was the right way to do this because people weren't just going to bend over backwards and give up a waiver claim for a player like Sebastian Valdez, even though we thought he did very well. Like, we just have to keep it, 100 when it comes to him.
You mentioned you're not going to trade Juwan. Are you negotiating with him or waiting for him to come back soon?
We keep those things we have throughout the offseason, and we'll leave it.
Lynch is tired of this shit, man. He does not want to answer any more Juwan Jennings questions. I have never seen him this contentious in any press conference. And if somebody knows of a different one and can correct me, please, by all means, chat, let me know. But my goodness, John is tired of the shit, man. He is not putting up with this at all. He's not happy.
That.
You mentioned bringing Russell Gage back. Any other moves of guys who will be added to the 50?
Just some practice squad stuff, and that's gone on. Continuing to add to that. We'll put that out as soon as that's final. But just that right now.
to have a quarterback on the
Yes.
practice squad?
We do.
Yep.
We do.
What's the plan with Curtis Rourke this season? Is it going to be?
Now, this part is where they announce who's the third quarterback that they're going to bring on the practice squad. I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with the young man. He's from the Jets, and they're going to announce his name. I think his name is Adrian Martinez. And I don't really know much about him, but that's your third quarterback, being that Tanner Mordecai and Carter Bradley were both put back on the injured reserve when they weren't picked up. So there's your third quarterback, who will be the emergency quarterback on game days.
A red shirt for him? Or?
He gets 3 weeks to decide when he comes back. So we'll decide on that and how those 3 weeks go. And I don't expect it anytime real soon, but I think what I said last time, around week 6 or something. So sometime in that area. So when that happens, we'll have 3 weeks to decide. And it's always tough when a guy doesn't get any off season to throw him into 3 weeks of Carter practices and stuff to make a decision. But I'll tell you, he's worked as hard as anyone can in the position he's in. Just what we see him out there doing alone in the morning, how attentive he is in the meetings and stuff. So he'll give himself a chance in those 3 weeks, and if not, he'll get a redshirt year.
John, how do you think Jake Moody did as a quarterback you're bringing to the practice squad?
It's not official. So
Yeah, he's still en route, but Adrian Martinez is his name, was with the
That's a way more important question about who this third quarterback is than asking any stupid question about the kicker, by the way. Shout out to everybody in here. We'll continue with the press conference. If you're new here, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, consider, subscribing, because we have a lot of good content coming and as the season ramps up. But this question is far more important than any stupid question about the kicker. The kicker is going to be on the roster. That's it. There's nothing that's going to be done, and they're not going to get rid of him. That's all I need to say about that.
Jets, and he's en route. Yeah.
How do you think Jake Moody did this preseason?
Well, I think it was an excellent competition between him and Joseph. I think Kyle spoke to, we didn't want that competition to end, but anyone who says it wasn't a competition, I don't really agree. I think, the coaches, the special teams coaches are always charting everything. So you see what you see in front of everyone, and then they're doing things to the side. And Jake had a really good, preseason. I found it interesting after, having a hell of a game in Las Vegas that, a lot of people still have questions. And I guess that when you had a season like you did last year, those things are going to be there until you put those you kind of put that away. And, we got a lot of belief in him and understand that last year was rough, but that happens in guys' careers. Our confidence and belief in him is what we see out here. But I will say everything's earned in this league, and everyone's got to go prove it each and every game, each and every year. And so Jake understands that.
Here you
young
go.
guys up front, as far as Marcus Siegel, what's his progress been, and also the updates on Upton Stout?
Upton should get out there today, here this afternoon. So it'll be his first time out of practice here in a little bit. So excited about that. And
Hell yeah, that's huge. Just out returning to practice, that's great. Ramping up. He looks like he's going to be on track for week 1 as well. I know that Chase Lucas has done a lot, and he's absolutely earned his way onto this roster. Playing outside corner, I think, in the third game was very important for him. And now he can back up Upton Stout. That cornerback depth that we were so worried about going into the season, it's kind of rounding into shape a little bit more. I feel much better about this. Now, safety's a different story. If, again, Pinnock's going to start and Siegel's there, and we're all excited about Siegel. But, behind that, Jair Brown has struggled, and you're worried about that. But I feel like the cornerback depth has really, really taken shape, and that has a lot to do with Chase Lucas and what he showed in the preseason. So good news here with Upton Stout. He is going to be back in practice today, and he looks like he's good to go for week 1.
Marquise Siegel's had an awesome camp. He got a late start, missing OTAs. I think it was his core surgery, I think. But he's been great. You guys have seen him in the games, been the same way in practice, and we're expecting him to help us this year.
You guys had 17 guys with offensive linemen, defensive linemen. This year it's 21. Was this just a product of guys that were unhealthy, or?
We like the groups, really. And, we like the groups. And sometimes there's roster mechanics that go on. Last year, I forget exactly what happened, why we went light. But this is where we thought our best 53 was right now, as Kyle always tells the guys. It's never a final 53. I'm sure it will be fluid. But we like the group of guys. And, that, like I said, it expect it to move. It never stays static.
Owners' meetings, when free agency was fresh, you kind of indicated that you guys had to take your medicine, and I don't think you said it was a one-season pause, but
Again, sorry for the quality of the video. It's not me. It's the 49ers video team, which is still trying to round into shape before week 1.
You know, kind of had that vibe. I know you've since said that your feelings have changed. And John, if you want to weigh in, but like, where do you, like, it doesn't feel like it's quite Super Bowl or bust, but obviously you still have a lot of great players. Like, I guess big picture, where do you think you are? And I mean, is it a different feeling than some of the past years?
I mean, I've been feeling the same for a while. I mean, and we can go back to free agency. I mean, that was
Man, Eric Branch has such a hard time getting those questions out, man. I mean, I think he does a great job, but geez, man, you gotta practice.
we lost a lot of our team that day, and we didn't sign a bunch of guys, so there was a lot of uncertainty. I felt a lot better after the draft when we filled up some of those holes. When you look at it today, I mean, the draft makes you feel better because you fill up some of those holes, but you're not going to feel good until you actually see those guys make your team and play. I think that was the most exciting thing when you look at the 53. I mean, we lost more D linemen and stuff and defensive players than what we had, especially in one exit. And sometimes when, as a coach, and you think you're going to make that all up in the draft, I look at that as a little make-believe. I don't usually, wherever you draft, first round, second round, seventh round, it's usually 50-50 on that guy. And then when I look at all the guys we drafted and that they legitimately made our team and we're excited about them, that's the stuff that makes me feel a lot better. Where are we at? I don't know. It depends on how good we get as this year goes. We lost some good players, but I think we filled them with some guys who are capable of becoming those guys and hopefully became capable of becoming better. Is that going to happen right away? No, it never does. But can it happen this year? Can it happen by week 4? Can it happen by week 8? And those are things that we're optimistic about. You want to have good luck with injuries and everything like that, which can't control all of that. But I'm excited that we have options in this building. We have young guys to work with, and we have a bunch of players who have been successful in this league who I still believe have a number of good years ahead of them too.
I, for one, have been enjoying this transparent Kyle Shanahan era, right? Goes on Sirius XM and talks about wanting to play his best ball going into the postseason, sneak in and become that team that nobody really wants to play. And he's talking about the bumps and bruises that are going to happen likely with this team, especially when you give all the rookies that are going to be playing. But the optimism of we just want to get better. And I like this. Like the idea of just like we're running it back, revenge tour 7.0. Like I dislike that because it's disingenuous. No matter how you feel, Kyle's not giving up on the idea of the 49ers making a surprise run. Crazier things have happened in the NFL, but being realistic about this team's chances and what they can do and what they're capable of has been very refreshing to me with Kyle Shanahan in this season. I don't know if that's turning over a new leaf. It's going to change things, but as of right now, I've been enjoying everything that he's been saying. I haven't taken any of this as a red flag.
Kind of following up on that, you look at it two ways. Obviously, more inexperienced, particularly depth-wise, but also maybe more upside. How do you kind of view the variance that you might get with a younger group when you're building out the roster?
Yeah, I think, Nick, 10 of 11 of our draft picks, that's a lot of draft picks, and 10 of 11 made it, and undrafted free agent made it as well. So there is a lot of youth on this team. There's a lot of opportunity, with youth. The expectation, the standard doesn't change, and, man, they've got great examples of guys who've done it at a high level in this league, so that's really cool for these guys. But you don't expect for it to go perfectly. And hopefully you've worked through a lot of that during the offseason, during training camp. These guys have played preseason games because of some injuries in camp. A lot of these guys probably got more reps than they've expected. Now, in the same tune, some of our rookies were hurt for, a couple weeks during training camp. So I think a lot of it just remains to be seen, But we're excited about what this group has infused into our team. We're excited about the team in general. Did a lot of talent leave this team last year? Absolutely. And but that's the league, and we made the best of it, and I like where our team's at.
They're lockstep in what they're saying. We have a lot of youth. We're excited about this team. We know that it may not go perfectly, but they are relying on their top-end, high-end guys to do a lot of the heavy lifting for the first time, meaning Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Fred Warner. All of you guys have to really, really lift this team up while they get these other guys up to par. And that's essentially the message that Kyle Shanahan has been giving. He said so much on Sirius XM. John Lynch is lockstep. They both understand that. There's no conflicting messages here between the two of them. And I think, again, that's refreshing.
When you look at the construction of this team, despite turnover, there's at least a guy in every room who's a veteran, who's been there, and can kind of show guys the ropes. Is that encouraging for you in terms of like looking at how the transition can be smoother because of that?
Yeah,
That's exactly what he's about to say, is about how the higher end guys, the guys that are veterans, the guys that are all pros are going to have to help lift this team, and they're going to have to do it off the field and on the field. Here, listen to this answer.
it's a great mix. I mean, I remember when I was a rookie having Hardy Nickerson next to me, so to be a young guy and have an established vet who's been really successful, who can help you on the field, but help you off the field too, take you through that. That's what you want in a locker room, and I think we've got that throughout this locker room. There's a lot of really impressive people, and obviously their work on the field speaks for itself. So tremendous for these rookies to have role models. And you want to be successful, study successful people. They're all over this locker room, so I think that bodes well for us. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right. So again, I thought that there were a few key things to take away from this. When you look at the way that John was answering these questions about Jauan Jennings, he was getting further and further agitated. But to kind of recap, and we have 115 people in here. Shout out to you guys. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We got Sprint Right Option tonight where we're going to break down all of the news. I'm sure we'll have a full practice squad at that time, and at least closer to all 53 filled out. So we'll have a lot to talk about then. But I did want to point out like the idea of Jauan Jennings being hurt, and both things are true, and what John Lynch was saying there. I do think that they are a little frustrated with the way that this is playing out, just simply because of the injury and the contract situation and the manipulation of the 53-man roster, right? I did think it was important for them to point out that whatever incentive-based report is out there about Jauan Jennings and costing himself money is not true. That is what John Lynch said. It is not true. He's already hit those bonuses. So there is no Jauan Jennings is costing himself money. The problem is that this staring match now is bleeding into the 53-man roster construction, and they're not manipulating all of the ways that they can. They're not manipulating this roster in the ways that they really want to. They would love a clear, definitive answer of Jauan Jennings is going to miss maybe a week or two. Cool. We can keep him on the 53-man roster. We can list him as out. Or Jauan Jennings is going to miss a few weeks. Now we have an IR spot. And Stovey, thank you for joining, bro. Thanks. Shout out to everybody that's in here. I see Gojira and all the normal people. The punter is back, and Jacob Cowing is on IR. So now what's important, and I want to point this out about Jacob Cowing going on to IR, is Jacob Cowing is going on to IR, but he's not. They don't have to make a decision on whether he can return or not. This can be a full on IR for the entire season thing, or they can decide to bring him back whenever it is they feel like it. So it's important to note, if you're wondering why it took them this long to put him on IR, this is why. Because they don't have to designate him to return. The Kevin Givens thing is he's on IR, but he's designated to return. They do believe they're going to get Kevin Givens back later in the season. With Jacob Cowing, they put him on IR. They can decide later on whether they want to or whether they don't want to. They don't have to declare that right now. So I wanted to make sure that that's important, because it is important to note when you think about how they're manipulating all of this as well too. Other things that were said, Russell Gage is now on the 53-man roster, not the practice squad. So he is absolutely going to be up for week one way or another. They did mention Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but with no real mention of how they're going to, ease him in or use him. If you're asking me off the top of my head, most likely Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to start out at X. They'll use Pearsall as Z. You're just going to watch Marquez Valdez-Scantling, take a bunch of cardio and try to take the top off of the Seattle defense and just bring guys with him on clear routes. I really don't believe that you're going to see this full route tree from him or anything like that. It's that speed that they're going to actually use to try to just threaten Seattle, but that's how you open up those digs over the middle for Pearsall and all those guys. So yeah, I really don't see Marcus Valdez-Scantling. I'm not telling you to go run out there and go pick him up in fantasy football at all. I think he's just going to run 30 routes, 25 routes, and they're all just going to be straight line go routes, trying to take safeties with them, trying to manipulate linebackers so they can get those backside digs to Ricky Pearsall. So I thought that was important to note. Russell Gage is going to be somebody that's going to be on this roster. Robbie Chosen on the 53. We found out Upton Stout is going to be on his way back. Same thing with Barch and Pooney, and things are starting to round into shape. Yetur Gross-Matos has a chance at week one. It's going to take at every all hands on deck approach in week one, especially given all the injuries. And you're going to Seattle. It's a tough place to play. And there's Kubiak against Salah and Shanahan against McDonald. Like that's the chess match that we're going to be looking at during that time. But you need players to execute that. And I believe during this press conference, he was asked about scheme and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, you need players as well, too. So I guess that kind of goes against the whole scheme versus players argument and everything as well. Scheme is great, but you do need players as well too. So I thought this was very interesting. There was a lot of things in it that were, kind of nothing burgers, but really the things that I took away were just John Lynch is tired of the Juwan Jennings thing. I think they're not only visibly frustrated with the way that the negotiations are going, with how they have to do the mental gymnastics of the 53-man roster because they just don't know what's going on with him. And he mentioned you can't image him every day, and these calves tend to linger, and yes, he wants a contract, and yes, he's hurt, and both things are true, and I'm not getting into that. Like, he visibly upset, like you could tell. So I think, again, all of this stuff is fluid, and it's going to remain fluid, especially with the 53-man roster. It's going to remain fluid moving forward. I think all the way up until game day, there's going to be things that are out there as well too. And just to reiterate my point about the waiver claim process, you can't put in a waiver claim process. You can't process a waiver claim without putting that person on the 53-man roster, which is why you see Jefferson in, Evan Anderson out. And that's the thing is you let guys go and claim, you sign them to the practice squad, and then you try to see if you slip them by there. Sebastian Valdez back on the practice squad. There was a list of players that were put back on the practice squad: Robbie Chosen, Nick Zakel, Junior Bergen, Jalen Graham. A lot of guys that just fell back to the team. So ultimately, right now, it's just about trying to put this team together, and they're going to continue to piece it together as they go along, given all the injuries and everything. But they are very upset right now with the way the Juwan Jennings thing is going. I think Kyle's taking it a lot better. If you watched the press conference, Kyle is more just like, business is business. But I do think John Lynch is not only tired of the negotiations, but he's tired of the idea of how they've had to build this 53-man roster and not knowing, is it 1 foot in, 1 foot out, what's going on, and how long are you going to be out? It just seems like they're visibly frustrated. So 36 minutes, 140 people in here. Guys, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. You know what? I don't really have too much more to add. I'll be back tonight at 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific with Andrew Pasquini, and we're going to break down all of the moves and we'll have a clearer picture of the roster as well too. But thank you guys for joining, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you guys for joining me, around, it's about to be 3 o'clock on the West Coast, so I appreciate you guys as well too. So, and have a great day. See you guys later, and go Niners.